What the hell is going on? No, seriously. What is actually going on? Because if you've felt it, if you've even slightly felt it, then you already know this isn't just nostalgia. This isn't just getting older. This isn't just stress or burnout or another phase we're supposed to push through with a productivity app and a podcast. Nothing feels the same in America anymore. And it's not subtle. Something broke in 2020. Not cracked, not bent, snapped. Clean break. And whatever we've been living in since then, it's not the same timeline, not the same rhythm, not the same emotional gravity as the world before it. People keep saying we'll get back to normal. But deep down, everyone knows that's a lie. Because normal is gone. It didn't pause. It didn't go on vacation. It died. And we're all pretending it didn't. You feel it when you wake up. You feel it in grocery stores. You feel it when you talk to people and there's nothing behind their eyes. You feel it when holidays come around and they feel like a chore instead of a moment. Everything feels hollow, flat, drained. And the scariest part, nobody can quite explain why. Time doesn't move right anymore. Days blur together. Weeks disappear. You look back at the last 4 years and it feels like static, like lost footage, like your life was running in the background while you weren't really inside it. And it's not just you. Millions of people who don't know each other, people from different backgrounds, different ages, different beliefs, are all saying the same thing in different ways. Something is off. I don't feel like myself. Nothing excites me anymore. I feel like I'm watching my life instead of living it. That doesn't happen by accident. Before 2020, we still believed in things. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not deeply, but we believed enough to function without constantly questioning reality itself. We believed institutions worked at least a little. We believed hard work meant something. We believed the system was flawed but fixable. We believed tomorrow would more or less resemble today. And then 2020 happened. Not just the virus, not even close. What changed us wasn't sickness. It was fear, isolation, contradiction, gaslighting on a global scale, being told to trust the experts while watching those experts reverse themselves every few weeks, being told to stay calm while every screen screamed emergency, being told we were all in this together while the rules never applied equally. That was the moment something clicked for a lot of people. That uneasy realization that maybe the people in charge didn't actually know what they were doing. Or worse, that they did and they just didn't care. And once that door opens, it never closes again. Because after that, everything else starts to unravel. You start questioning why we live the way we do. Why we work the hours we work. Why we're exhausted all the time. Why food doesn't taste the same. Why healthcare feels like a business instead of healing. Why education feels like conditioning instead of learning. You start seeing patterns you never noticed before. You realize how much of your life is spent maintaining systems you don't believe in anymore, paying bills for things you barely use, chasing goals you didn't choose, performing happiness so nobody asks questions. And that creates a special kind of exhaustion, not physical, not even mental. Soul exhaustion, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You still have to wake up, still have to go to work, still have to smile, nod, participate. You're awake but trapped. Living with one foot in the world you see clearly now, and one foot still stuck in the old script because rent is due and kids need food and reality doesn't pause for spiritual awakenings, so you mask. You pretend. You play along. And every day it costs a little more energy than the last. That's why people feel angrier, shorter, more detached. That's why social interactions feel awkward, brittle, empty. That's why everyone feels like they're on edge but nobody knows what they're waiting for. People didn't just forget how to socialize during lockdowns. Something deeper shifted. You can see it in healthcare workers, teachers, service workers, anyone who deals with the public. People are different, ruder, less patient, less present, more impulsive, more disconnected. It's like empathy took a hit it never recovered from. And no one wants to talk about that part. We locked people inside, isolated them, flooded their nervous systems with fear, forced them into digital existence, and then acted shocked when they came back, changed. Because that's another thing that happened in 2020 that nobody really addresses. We didn't just go online more. We moved our entire existence into screens. Work, school, social life, news, entertainment, validation, identity. Everything collapsed into a 5-inch rectangle we carry everywhere. And the human brain was never designed for that. We're organic beings, nervous systems, sensory creatures. We evolved to experience life in physical space, in communities, in rhythm with nature and each other. Instead, we scroll. We absorb the suffering of the entire planet daily. Wars we can't affect, crises we can't solve, outrage engineered to keep us engaged, fear packaged as information. And then we wonder why nothing feels real. Even when we escape, it's fake. Vacations turn into content. Moments turn into posts. Experiences turn into performance. You're not there to feel, you're there to document. So life doesn't register in memory the way it used to. It doesn't anchor. It doesn't leave emotional fingerprints. That's why the last few years feel blank. Your brain wasn't living, it was processing. And underneath all of this, there's another layer people are afraid to acknowledge. Intuition. That quiet signal in the background saying, something is wrong. Not wrong like, bad day. Wrong like environmental mismatch, like trying to run old software in a system that's been updated without your consent. Some people call it awakening. Some call it dissociation. Some call it anxiety. Some call it conspiracy. But what if it's calibration? What if the background frequency of the world changed, and human nervous systems are struggling to adjust? That would explain why some people shut down completely, why others become obsessed with distraction, why silence feels uncomfortable to some and necessary to others, because when things change at a fundamental level, not everyone adapts the same way. And the people who never stop scrolling, the people who can't sit in quiet for 5 minutes without reaching for stimulation, those are often the ones struggling the most. Because silence is where you notice interference, and once you notice it, you can't unfeel it. That's why so many people suddenly crave nature, solitude, land, simplicity, real conversations, real work, real food. They're not trying to escape society. They're trying to feel real again. That's also why so many people say the same thing. I just want a small piece of land. I want to grow food. I want to homeschool my kids. I want to stop participating. Not because they're lazy, not because they're antisocial, because the system no longer feels aligned with being human. And here's the part nobody wants to admit out loud. This system needs you distracted. It needs you buying, scrolling, arguing, identifying with sides, consuming narratives instead of questioning structures. That's why The Truman Show hits harder now than it did when it came out. Because Truman isn't crazy. He's intuitive. He feels the wrongness before he understands it. He senses the artificiality, the repetition, the way everyone tries to keep him comfortable instead of free. Because Truman isn't just a person. He's an asset. And so are we. Our attention, our labor, our data, our emotional reactions, our consumption habits. We are incredibly valuable as long as we stay inside the script. So when people wake up, the response isn't clarity. It's pacification. More content, more noise, more outrage, more pills, more labels. Anything to keep you from sitting still long enough to ask the wrong questions, because once enough people do, the illusion gets expensive to maintain. And that's why so many people now say they don't trust anything anymore. Not the media, not the government, not the education system, not even their own memories sometimes. At the same time, they feel strangely open to ideas they would have dismissed before. Not because they're gullible, but because the old filters are broken. When trust collapses, skepticism spreads in all directions. That's dangerous, but it's also revealing, because beneath the confusion is a shared realization. The life we were promised doesn't match the life we're living, and it never really did. So yeah, nothing feels the same. Not because you're broken, because the story changed and nobody updated the script. And now we're all improvising inside a reality that doesn't quite respond the way it used to. Some people will call this pessimism. Others will call it conspiracy. Others will say it's just trauma. But ask yourself this. When was the last time this many people felt the same unexplainable shift at the same time? Exactly. So maybe the question isn't, what's wrong with us? Maybe the question is, what changed and why are we pretending it didn't? Because pretending is what's exhausting us. And maybe the discomfort you feel isn't a problem to be solved, but a signal you're finally paying attention.